Hi there, my name is John Faulkes and you are welcome to this extract of a webinar that I presented to PCT in 2016. If you are a clinical project manager or a development project manager, you may be asked at a certain point in the year to give feedback about your team members' performance in your project to their own line managers. But at any time, you may need to take a more direct role in performance management, and this can present some challenges. In this brief presentation, we'll explore these challenges, discuss the legitimate authority that you do have to address performance, and share some tactics to help you make a success of it. We are all familiar with the traditional line management structure of organisations and the matrix model of a cross-functional project team that overlaps this structure and may well cross the boundary between partner organisations, the extended team as we call it. But the first and perhaps the main challenge for the project manager is that it's line managers and not you that are responsible for performance management. So if you need to intervene in managing performance, you may feel that you don't have sufficient authority to do it, or at least it hasn't been clarified that it's part of your role. So as well as these challenges, which we find in many organisations, there are some other things which make tackling performance management difficult. The members of cross-functional teams may well be expert, quite dominant individuals who may well be senior to you. Also, if issues that you wish to tackle are subtle ones, you may find it difficult to address them. You may know the circumstances of your own internal team colleagues, but you don't know so much about the extended team members. And you might be worried about the politics that someone you address a problem with may complain to a senior manager, which will mean a negative impact on you. So you may find it easier to avoid tackling performance issues, but you have some accountability for the project outcome. So if there are problems that are not being addressed, you need to address them. It is a challenge even for quite simple issues such as work packages not being delivered or not being delivered properly. But it is even more of a challenge where people's attitudes or behaviours are not helpful. You may fear quite justifiably that you could run into trouble with conversations like this. So let's look at what things will help you manage performance. Many project managers come from a background as a scientist or a team leader, where you are accustomed to having a certain level of authority to resolve problems. It is one of the main challenges for the new project manager that this sort of direct authority is not there. The main source of your authority as a project manager is in fact the purpose or the goal and outcome of your project, and you have the remit to question performance that impacts success. Remember, your project may well be a multi-million-dollar initiative authorised at the highest level in the organisation, so you are tapping into a powerful source of authority. But you do need a level of confidence to be able to exercise your leadership. Developing this means, first of all, how you think about your own role. This means learning to accept the ambiguity and sometimes confusion of dotted line relationships with experts in your team, many of whom are experts in areas that you are not. As we've seen, you also need to focus on the purpose and overall goals of the project and not get distracted by detail. You will be able to manage performance if you combine this way of thinking with some practical management skills. Exercising your authority, but also delegating properly to team members, will have a real impact on motivation, which will lead to higher levels of performance. More challenging perhaps, but achievable by using some practical tactics, which we'll explain shortly. Giving feedback in the right way will really help you manage and improve poor performance. Of course, trying out new techniques in real situations helps you develop more confidence over time. But this can be accelerated with some coaching to help reinforce the right mindset and some training to develop the skills. So, having covered some theoretical stuff, let's look at some practical techniques that will help you. They will be useful at any point in a project, but if you can address them right at the start, they will be most effective. We don't have time to cover these in great detail in this webinar, but you can always get in touch to find out more. The techniques in the green box here are fairly straightforward to use, and you can use them easily without assistance. So, at a kick-off meeting with your team, it's a great idea to agree some principles of working well together, such as listening, respecting other ideas, and so on. We often call these ground rules. One of the most damaging problems, if it's not addressed, is where the team members are not clear of their roles and the roles of others. This can be addressed using the responsibility accountability matrix, sometimes called RACI. Another thing that can affect performance is unspoken disagreement about the best frequency of meetings or expectations for email and telephone conversations around certain aspects of work. Agreements about these are helpfully recorded in what's called a communication plan. Looking at what went well and what were problems in previous projects helps to focus the team on planning for forthcoming work. This technique and some others in this light blue box are a little bit more challenging to use and benefit from the assistance of an expert facilitator. Agreeing the expectations of performance from team members around quality, timely deliverables, and so on can be very powerful. As you can imagine, project teams are made up with people having different personalities and different styles, and analysis of this mix helps the team to understand where inefficiencies might occur and make a plan to cope with them. Lastly, in some situations, it's necessary to spell out the authority of the team leader and the level of empowerment that the team members have. What may help is the use of some standard templates for recording agreements generated by some of the techniques we have just identified. In some cases, these develop into the formal control documents that describe parameters of a piece of work conducted by two organisations working together. Get in touch if you would like to see some examples of the various documents you might use. Not everything goes according to plan, and sometimes you may have to give some feedback to team members who are not performing to expectations. Let's take a brief look at a technique that will help you, firstly, to find the right words to get this conversation started, and secondly, to manage this type of conversation. Think through how you will introduce it. Note the situation in which something happened or didn't happen. Then the behaviour. Note what the person did do or didn't do. And finally, something that legitimizes your approach, the impact on the project that had. When you get together with that person, use the rehearsed words that you've prepared. You can use them to introduce the issue. Then, always ask for the view of the other person. Ask questions, but make sure you're asking open questions to clarify their views. At some point, you may need to stop listening and state the expectations in that situation. And in some cases, these two steps need to cycle around until you can reach some agreement. And finally, formally agree what will happen in future. This is, of course, a one-to-one technique, but you can use something similar for feedback with a whole team. It's a little bit more complicated, but by all means get in touch to find out more. So, in summary, as a project manager of a cross-functional and an extended team, you can manage performance, But of course, you are in a complex structure, so not everything may be possible. It's best to build agreements with the team at the outset, and then when you have to take any performance management actions, they will be less of a surprise and more successful. Remember, the purpose and the goals of the project are your authority, so you should use those. And you can't be expected to be fully confident in managing performance, so try to stick to a trusted process, at least while you're developing your skills. So, I hope you have found this presentation useful. Contact me if you would like to talk further, but bye for now.